Hello friends, in this video we will be discussing about the concept of printing a pattern using C programming language. So first of all we'll try to print right angle triangle. So this is the pattern we are supposed to print. So whenever you are working on printing a pattern, what you need to consider. So here we can see we can able to see the triangle, right angle triangle. But actually what we need to do, we need to divide this particular triangle into rows and columns. So yes, I'm doing that. So this is one row, second, third, fourth, and likewise. Now columns. So okay, so now I have divided this particular triangle into rows and columns. Now why this rows and column conversion is there? So see, ultimately we are printing star. Okay, we are printing star. Now we know that from the figure we can able to know that okay, we need to print star more than one time. And we also know that if it is printing more than one time, then we need to go for implementing the concept of loop. So now main question is how many times this loop is to be printed and in what pattern. So for that, or to make the relationship or to find the relation, we need to convert this triangle or the pattern, whatever the pattern it is. We need to convert that pattern into the form of rows and columns. Now we just check out. This is the row number 1. Okay, this is, we can see this is row number 1. This is 2. This is 3. This is 4 and this is 5th. Now if you look at the column, this is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4 and column 5. So now first of all we can see that number of rows are uniform. Rows and columns are uniform. Now what is the, we need to find the relation. We need to find the relation between row and column. What is the relation between rows and columns? So that is very important thing to identify, and based on that we'll be writing the condition in the loop. So here you can see that in the first row how many columns are there? Only one column is there. In the second row how many columns are there? Two columns are there. In third row how many columns are there? Three columns are there, or we can say we need to print three stars. Then in fourth row we have four columns, or we need to print 4 columns. In row 5 we need to print 5 columns. So by understanding this we need to identify the relationship between row and column. So the relationship we can say here that how many columns are to be printed. So columns equals to row number. This is number of column that equals to row number. Just I am trying to get you the things what exactly the meaning of column equals to row number. So how many columns? Number of columns to be printed. Okay, number of columns to be printed equals to row number. So in this first row how many columns are to be printed? So that equals to row number. So this is row number 1, so one column is printed. Now in this second row how many columns are to be printed? So that equals to row number. So here you are in row number 2. So there will be 2 columns to be printed. Now in third row how many columns are to be printed? So again row number. So this is row number 3. So 3 columns are to be printed, and likewise. So now the relationship we get is what? Number of columns to be printed that equals to row number. Okay, so by using this equation or by understanding this relationship we can easily write the code. Now in this type of pattern there will be two for loops. There will be two for loops, or we can say two loops ultimately, but four will be easy to implement, so that we are using two for loop. So first for loop, or we can say outer for loop, is for row, for each row, and the inner for loop is for columns. It is for columns. Okay, so first, or we can say outer for loop is for row, inner for loop is for column. So here we will be using the concept of nested for loop. We have already seen this concept, but the same concept we will be using over here. So we will be having nested for loop, or we can say two for loops. The outer for loop represents row, inner for loop represents column. Okay, now we try to look at the code. Okay, so now you just see here the code I have written. So we have taken three variables. One is row. It is there to check out how many rows are to be printed. Then I and j are the control variables which we will be using within the loop. So now we are taking the value of row. Suppose we are taking the value of rows. So I'm taking row equals to 4. User has entered 4. Okay. 4 means the output should like this. 4 rows should be there. Okay. So output will be like this. So here you can see this is the pattern to be printed. 4 rows. We have just seen that the relation we have is column equals to row number. Okay. This is the relation. Now how many rows are to be printed? So we know that the first for loop is for row. First for loop is for row. So how many rows are to be printed? 4 rows. So we have started from I equals to 1, I less than equals to row, because we know that we need to print 4 rows. So that's why we have taken this row. So I equals to 1, I less than equals to row. So you have started with 1, you need to reach at 4. So you need to increment. Now this is for row. Now you also seen that we need to use the concept of nested for loop. So for loop within for loop. So this is your outer loop. Now in that outer loop, this is inner for loop, and we have seen that this is for column. Okay, this is for column. So how many columns are to be printed? So in each row, now in each row, how many columns are to be printed? So if it is row number 1, only first row is to be printed. If it is row number 2, there are 2 columns to be printed. If it is row number 3, then there are 3 columns to be printed. So number of columns to be printed is basically depends upon what? Row number. And row number, how we can get? The variable I represents the current row number. So that's why j equals to 1. J will start from 1, that we know. But how many columns are to be printed? That equals to row number. And row number is to be identified by the value of I. So that's why I've written j less than equals to I. So if it is first row, the value of I is 1. So one column will be printed. If it is second row, then the value of I will be 2. Then it is third row, then value of I will be 3. So depending upon the row number of columns are to be printed, and then we are printing star. So we have just repeated the task, that every time we are printing the value, that is star or asterisk. Now after each row, in one row the column is printed. Now after one row, all the columns in one row are printed. Now the cursor should be moved from here to the next line, so that after the completion of this column loop, what we have done, we have written slash n. So now cursor will be jumping from here to here, next row, and again we'll be repeating the things for the next row. Okay, so now I'll try to debug the code. We try to debug the code, the value of row, the value of I, the value of j. Okay, now the value of row is what? Suppose I am taking the value of row is 4. User has entered 4. Now I equals to 1, so I am taking I equals to 1. I less than equals to row. So what is the value of row? Row is 4. So 1 less than equals to row, condition true. Now we move inside j equals to 1. J less than equals to I. What is the value of I? 1. So 1 less than equals to 1, condition true. It will move inside and it will print star on the screen. So it will print star on the screen. Suppose this is your output window. So star will be printed on the screen. Now j will be incremented. Now j will become 2. Okay, j will become 2. So now 2 less than equals to I, condition false. J less than equals to I means 2 less than equals to I, condition false, because I is 1 and j is 2. So it will jump out of this, and now printf gets executed. So cursor will be moving from here to here. So now cursor is here. Okay. Now again we will be moving and we will be incrementing the value of I. So now I will be 2. Again we move inside. Again the value of j will be what? J equals to 1. So 1 less than equals to 2, condition true. So star will be printed. So star will be printed over here. Cursor will be moved. Now j will be incremented. Now j will be 2. Then 2 less than equals to 2. Why? Because the value of I is 2 right now. So 2 less than equals to 2, condition true. It will again print asterisk here. Cursor will be moved further. Now j will be what? 3. 3 less than equals to 2, condition false. So you will be jumping out. This loop is terminated and will be coming out. Now slash n. So now cursor will be moved from here to here, next row. Now again we will be moving or incrementing the value of I. Now I will be 3. Coming in again, j equals to 1. 1 less than equals to 3, condition true. So star will be printed. Then 2 less than equals to 3, star will be printed. Then 3 less than equals to 3, star will be printed. Now j will become 4. So 4 less than equals to 3, condition false. So again slash n. So cursor will be moving to the next row. Now I will become 4. J again, j will become 1. Condition is 2. 1 less than equals to 4. So star will be printed. Then 2 less than equals to 4, star is printed. 3 less than equals to 4, star is printed, and 4 less than equals to 4, star is printed. Then after, now I becomes what? I becomes 5, and 5 less than equals to row. What is the value of row? Row is 4. So 5 less than equals to 4, condition false. So directly we will be moving to the next statement, or we can terminate the execution of the outer loop and we come out. So now you can see on the screen that you are getting pattern. Whatever the desired pattern we have received that pattern. Okay, I hope you understood this particular part. Now see, it may possible that pattern is same. Here you can see pattern is same, that number of rows and number of columns are same. Okay, pattern is same. Only the difference is, in place of printing star, we need to print ones and zeros. Now you need to check out here ones and zeros. So again you need to think that how we can do this. What is the logic? So very simple logic we can get over here. This is column number 1, right? This is column number 1. This is column number 2. This is column number 3. This is column number 4, and this is column number 5. So for all the odd columns, 1, 3 and 5, we are having 1. We need to print 1. And for all even columns, we need to print 0. So from this, we can get the logic. So outer structure will remain same. For the structure of for loop, outer for loop and inner for loop, it will remain same. Only the difference is there will be change in the printing. Now you check out, there is a change in printing. So again we have taken the value of row. We have taken the value of I equals to 1. I less than equals to row means it will tell us how many rows are to be printed. Now this is for column. How many columns are to be printed? So that equals to row number, and row number is to be defined by I. But now in place of printing star, in the previous program we have just written star. In place of printing star, what we need to do? We need to print ones and zeros. So that's why we have written j modulo 2. Why j modulo 2? Because for all the odd columns it should print 1. So whenever the value of j is 1, 3 or 5, it will be 1 modulo 2 gives you 1, 3 modulo 2 gives you 1, and 5 modulo 2 gives you 1. So for all odd rows you will be printing 1, and for all the even rows like 2 and 4, so whenever 2 modulo 2 gives you 0 and 4 modulo gives you 0. So ultimately we have written j modulo 2, and if you debug this code, then you will find that the output will be like this. Okay, it will be like this. So I hope you understood this code and understood the logic. In summary, if I want to say, I can say that first of all we need to find the relationship between number of columns to be printed and the row. So that is very important. So this particular logic is very important. Okay, so thank you all for joining, and I hope you like the video and understood the things. Thank you.